All right, we'll keep moving on. And I know we're probably going to run up against a time wall here, so you all just ping me when we get there. But the whole point of the risk assessment equal controls, controls equal policy. That's kind of what we were going through a few minutes ago. But again, these controls exist to reduce or mitigate the risk of of organizational assets or data. IT does not have the authority to create controls. It's something I can't stress enough. We as IT are in the service industry to the organization we're working for. We cannot write policy and we cannot implement controls. You don't own it. They're not paying you enough to own it sometimes, right? So that's the most important things. So IT is there to implement those controls that management has created in those policies. So again, management owns IT and the data, um, and they're the ones responsible for addressing risk. They also own the policy and the governance. Do you write your own vacation policy? Do you write your own compensation policy or work from home policy? No, all of those things are written by management. But a lot of organizations, the policy itself around information security gets kicked down to IT for IT to write. Well, that's just you're going to have a disconnect there between management and the support staff if you do that. So again, to address all these risks, this is why IT is important. The controls must be layered. You can't just come up with one control for one issue, like a password. We have to have MFA and maybe some other methods of authentication. So we have to be very much a partner with management in the risk process and the policy process. But at the end of the day, management has to decide whether they accept the risk where it sits or if it needs to be enhanced.
So
So
that's
it,
something you mentioned, the ownership piece. Something that I think comes up in the traditional management structure is that generally leaders and people own their department. Finance is able to do or supposed to do what finance does. Compliance or HR should do what they do. And there's always going to be overlap. An organization should not be so siloed that HR and finance never speak to each other. But I think people often use the excuse that I don't understand technology as a reason to push technology onto the people that are in technology, as though they're the only people that need to understand it. And that sometimes gives the non-technical colleagues that we have the excuse to say, well, this occurred because you didn't fix it, you didn't stop it, you didn't tell me that this needed to be done. Too many times, especially when we look at K-12. K-12 is one of the most challenging spaces to work from a technology perspective because, especially for your small and occasionally your mid-sized school districts or schools, almost anybody is a stakeholder. Grandma, if grandma knows the superintendent, grandma is now a stakeholder. Grandma can tell the superintendent she saw something online or her little grandchild, needs to have X, Y, and Z. And that can be the cause of or the reason why we're now pursuing a new platform or looking at a new technology. There is, and I think this goes back to the selling part for technology leaders and professionals. You have to make it very clear every single day technology is not just what we do. Everybody needs technology. And I'm not asking you to be a network engineer. I'm not asking you to be a security engineer. I'm not asking you to, become a PMO all of a sudden. But you do need to understand that you being able to use your VoIP phone or you being able to use your email doesn't just happen like flipping on flipping on the light switch, right? And even if you flip on the light switch, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in order for you to get power. We have to make sure that the people outside of IT understand how big IT is. So that way they understand how big the problems can be. And I think too often we just allow ourselves to stay in our little IT cubbyhole and then we allow everybody to leave us alone. And then when a problem occurs, everyone says, well, I didn't know that that's how that works. You never told me that, or that was your responsibility. It's like, well, you use the technology as much as I do. So it's our responsibility.
right, and it definitely is our responsibility. And just let's talk about phishing. I can't stop every phishing attack in technology. I do rely on you, the end user, to have enough knowledge to say, hey, this looks this looks a little fishy. I'm not going to click on this. I know this could be dangerous. Everybody has their role to play. No, IT has a lot of pressure on them, right? They are the experts. They are the leaders of their industry, but they don't own the data that's parked on it. So you use like finance, for example. So finance is the data custodian slash owner, but even finance doesn't get to make a decision of how that money is spent. The CFO is allotting money based on the wishes of the board and the best health of the company, maybe not necessarily a personal decision. So even in the finance world, the funds belong to the stakeholders, right? Not to the controller or the staff accountant. So it has to be understood, and I agree with you. We get a little bit of a disconnect there. A lot of data owners either don't want to be data owners or don't realize they are data owners slash custodians, right? So it does put unfair pressure on IT. It's a difficult challenge, but again, that one has to be addressed by management and through this policy process. Not an easy conversation for sure. So
Definitely. Yeah.